Well, good to see you and good to hear from you. As you mentioned to me, and I heard firsthand on the Big Ten Network broadcast, you asked Tony Petiti about the Michigan investigation and what kind of progress has been made there.
Yeah, I basically just stood up toward the end of Commissioner Petiti's comments and just basically asked what that situation was like for him last year. He was kind of put in a tough spot when he had to discipline Michigan for their in-person scouting. And, people call it a sign stealing scandal. There's nothing wrong with deciphering, decoding the opponent's signals. What's wrong was they went in person to opposing stadiums, took video, and then took that back to Stallions at Ann Arbor. And, he's up till 4 a.m. trying to figure out, what does this mean? And, when 3 people are making signals on the sideline, what is Ohio State's system that the players, have to read and react to? And, he cracked the code for that and any number of other opponents. And they stole third down stops and stole touchdowns as a result of it. So, basically stole victories. So, the Michigan people on here can say all they want, but that's anybody who understands the game of football knows exactly what they did. And, the degree to which they did it. And it really wasn't a loaded question. And he had a great answer. He said it was difficult. He relied on the other people in the Big Ten to help him. Certainly he didn't say this, but certainly he's got 13 other schools, calling him and saying, look, these people, stole food out of our mouths. You got to do something about this. And he did. He suspended the coach for the last 3 games, but kept them available for the Big Ten championship, which obviously they won, and they went on and won the national championship. And they did win those last 5 or 6 games without the benefit of Connor Stallions. I mean, he was gone, obviously, from that point on. But, what work he had done prior to that. And obviously anybody that it was funny. We were at St. Elmo's Steakhouse on Monday night, and we somehow got put in a separate dining room in the basement. And the Rutgers people were next to us. And Greg Schiano came in, and we took pictures with him and posted them on our social media. And, he remembers all of us from his time at Ohio State and so on. And so, I think about him, and the first inkling that we had that something was wrong was the Rutgers-Michigan game, where they interviewed him at halftime, and he had this miffed look on his face. It was a tight game. He goes, something's going on here. This isn't right. Something's not right. Something's up. And immediately you start scratching your head like, what are you talking about? And then as the days unfurled, the word gets out that the Big Ten sent a message to Michigan State and said, hey, Michigan might have your signals. You might want to watch your ass, for the game this Saturday. And Michigan State responded with, we may not play this game on Saturday. And of course, the money talked. They weren't going to refund a gate or anything like that, on 3 days' notice. So they went on and played, but the investigation, then people came out of the woodwork, and presumably Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State, anybody else they've ever played came up with credit card receipts showing Stallions. This guy bought seats at our stadium. We've got the receipts. Here you go, New York Times. Here you go, ESPN. Here you go, Pete the Mel. Here you go, whoever. You can have them, whoever broke this thing. And, the cat got out of the bag basically at that point, and it became a runaway downhill avalanche. So, that was kind of the beginning of it. And, we're still waiting for the NCAA. That was the other question I had for the commissioner. Any inkling that anything is going to come out of this, and or when the timeline would be. And he said he had no knowledge of any of that, but he stood by what they decided to do last year. And they produced a 13-page brief, the Big Ten did, of all the wrongdoing and everything that they had unearthed that was in violation of NCAA rules. So I guess it'll be interesting. One of these days, the NCAA will come to a final finding. And, I think we just have to accept whatever that is that they come up with, whether it's a slap on the wrist, a fine, vacation of wins, declaring them ineligible for this year. Well, anything in between or up to that, we'll see. But, they deserve something. I mean, there were people lost their jobs because they lost games to Michigan. It was just, kids probably got hurt because somebody knew they were catching a swing pass out of the backfield and they got hit by two people, that shouldn't have been there. So, I don't know what else to tell you, but that's kind of long and short on my, I got raked over the coals on Twitter because an Ohio State reporter, it's still in my head, all this other dumb bullshit. And
it's still under investigation.
It's still under investigation and no one else has the balls to ask about it. And, we'll see how it all comes out in the end. Believe me, I said, whatever happens. I think they should get something. I don't know what's right. I don't know what's wrong. So
nobody does.
Yeah, let's just let the process play out, and they're going to get what they deserve in the end. And I think some of it will be how much they were able to comply with the investigation. If they threw themselves on the mercy of the court and said, we did this, it's not right, then maybe the NCAA takes a better view of that than, boy, this was brazen rule breaking. So whatever. We've talked about that for long enough. We can get into other Big Ten headlines in Ohio State for sure.
Well, real quick, Steve, this is why it's fascinating to me, is because any other NCAA investigation that we've seen, Tennessee comes to mind, USC, LSU, all sorts of schools come to mind. Shoot, when I was covering the SEC, boots on the ground, every program during those 7 years had a violation and discipline at some point in the three programs that I covered in particular. So it's been widespread all over the place. However, it always was a standard money to players, recruiting violations, off the field conduct, changing grades, altering grades to keep players eligible, those sorts of things. This is the first cheating on field or game prep for an opponent that affected play on the field, number one. Number two, the team went on to win the national championship. And number three, this is the big piece for me. We know that there was cheating involved. There's no question about that. There was cheating. Connor Stallions cheated on behalf of the Michigan coaching staff. What I want to know is how much that information permeated throughout the coaching staff up to Jim Harbaugh and maybe even beyond, or how much did it not? That's what I want to know, because that's what makes it either just a slap on the wrist or this is widespread corruption and needs to be dealt with severely.
Yeah, it strikes at the integrity of the competition is what it really comes around to. If you take a look at it from 5 miles up in the ground, you have one team that has gone around the rules to find an edge, and the other team didn't do that. So it really creates a competitive disadvantage for one team to go outside the rules and do that. I'm harking back to one video taken by Channel 10, the CBS affiliate in Columbus. They're shooting the Ohio State offense kind of at the line of scrimmage, and CJ Stroud, in the game that was played in 2022, turns to the sideline, gets the signal, and then turns back toward the line of scrimmage now that everybody on the offense has the signal. And you can see the Michigan sideline as soon as he turns back to the line of scrimmage, the Michigan sideline explodes. I mean, they know immediately what, 6 people are signaling in, yelling at, they're yelling, run, 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 or pass, 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 whatever it is. And, they stuff the play, force a punt, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's plain on those on your face. So, and they only had that information because somebody was sent in stadium at another location, which is illegal under NCAA rules, to do that. And anybody who says, oh, it's just sign stealing, it's just fun, a fun thing by the boys, whatever, way you want to rationalize it, that's not what it was. And there is precedent. Louisville with Rick Pitino had a national championship stricken from the books because of cheating. I think UCLA way back may have had something similar to that with Larry Brown,
1980.
1980. So, it is what it is. And again, whatever the NCAA comes up with, it's fine. It took Tony Petiti about 3 weeks to look at it and drop the hammer on Jim Harbaugh. And here we sit, 9 months later, the NCAA hasn't done anything yet. So maybe one of these days. My buddy leaned over as Sharon Moore got up to do his spiel yesterday and said, wouldn't it be funny if the NCAA had dropped the hammer, 5 minutes before he went up there without him knowing, and then have somebody, Sharon, it looks like it's all over Twitter. The NCAA has blah, blah, blah. And, hit him with that in the midstream of the press conference. That would have been funny. That would have been vintage NCAA. That would have been somebody with a good sense of humor, one last time dropping a bomb on Michigan since Jim Harbaugh, claimed ignorance and, whatever.
Folks, we welcome your comments and questions here at the Voice of College Football. We appreciate the Super Chat contributions as well.